She wore mud-caked boots and carried bricks for a living. He was a billionaire lost in the dust of her world. What began as a broken-down car turned into a love story no one saw coming, not even them. Would you trust love that was built with bare hands? Or would you walk away before it could stand tall? In the golden dust of a scorching African afternoon, fate worked quietly. Hidden under the noise of construction drills and the hum of a man's broken-down car. The dust clung to everything in Bear Valley. The trees, the goats, the backs of men hauling bricks under the heat of a sun that showed no mercy. That's where Nia Dlamini worked. Tall, muscled, with arms shaped by years of lifting steel and cement, she was the only woman on the Ragoma housing project site. Every day she wore a yellow hard hat, mud-caked boots, and a no-nonsense stare that could silence a brawl. Nia was the kind of woman the world didn't notice, until it needed her. That day, a black Range Rover, shiny, sleek, and clearly not meant for these kinds of roads, sat stranded by the edge of the valley. The hood was up, smoke curling into the hot air. Inside the driver's seat was a man banging his hand on the steering wheel, cursing under his breath. Nobody knew him, but they saw him. Because he didn't belong. White shirt. Expensive watch. Shiny shoes. Too clean. Too polished. The villagers whispered. Is that a politician? Maybe a government spy? No, look at that car, he must be rich. But Nia didn't whisper. She acted. She dropped the cement bag she was carrying, wiped sweat from her brow, and walked straight up to the car. You lost? She asked, her voice dry like gravel, but not unfriendly. The man looked up, startled. His face was sharp, attractive in that city boy kind of way. His brows furrowed at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. I think my car overheated. I was following Google Maps to a site. Some land I'm planning to buy. Nia didn't smile. She looked at the steaming engine and nodded. Pop the hood fully. You've got coolant leaking. You'll need water, maybe more. There's a tap down by the worker's shed. The man blinked. You a mechanic? No, she said. I'm a builder. But poor people learn everything. He paused, then chuckled, a deep, surprised laugh that made his shoulders relax. I'm Sephew, he said, extending a hand. She didn't shake it. Her hands were covered in cement dust. Nia helped him fix the car. She fetched water. Taught him how to check the radiator. He tried to help, but mostly got in the way. Careful, she warned. City hands blister easy. Sephew smiled. So you've already judged me, huh? He shrugged. You showed up in leather shoes on a dirt road. What else am I supposed to think? But something about Sephew intrigued her. He wasn't just rich. He was clueless, like a bird that got lost from its flock and landed among buffaloes. What she didn't know was that Sephew Makori wasn't just any rich man. He was the billionaire owner of Makori Development Group, the largest real estate conglomerate in southern Africa. From Johannesburg to Nairobi, his buildings reached into the clouds. But here he was just a man with a busted car and zero survival skills. And for once he liked it that way. Over the next hour, Sephew followed her around like a shadow. He asked questions about the construction site. About the mud bricks, the cement mix, the rebar rods. Why don't you wear gloves? Because gloves don't lift the weight for you. You're the only woman here. Yes. That's why I work twice as hard. She answered bluntly, with no attempt to impress him. And that's what impressed him. As the sun began to dip low, turning the valley into a golden canvas, Nia took a long drink from a tin water bottle. Sephew sat beside her on a stack of bricks. You know, he said, I don't usually get stuck. I always have drivers, assistants, people to take care of things. But today, I was alone. She raised an eyebrow. And you panicked? He laughed. Yeah, I guess I did. Nia looked away toward the workers hauling the last wheelbarrows of the day. People like me don't get that option. Panic. To quit. If I fall apart, who puts the roof on the next house? There was a silence between them, one that didn't need to be filled. Finally, Sephew asked, Can I come again tomorrow? She turned to him, her eyes cautious. Why? To learn, he said. I don't want to be the kind of man who builds towers but can't hold a hammer. And that was the moment everything changed. Sephew returned the next morning. And the morning after that. At first, the workers rolled their eyes. What's this, a reality show? Rich boy wants to be a peasant now. But then they saw him carrying bricks, pouring sand, even taking orders from Nia without complaint. Day by day he grew tougher. His palms blistered. His shirt got dirty. His jokes got better. But more importantly, he listened. Nia taught him how to lay bricks. How to mix concrete just right. She showed him how to use your whole body when lifting, not just your arms. They ate lunch under a half-built roof, sharing fried maize and roasted groundnuts. She told him about her mother, how she died in childbirth, about her father who drank himself into oblivion, about how she raised her siblings by building houses with her bare hands. And Sephew told her about his lonely penthouse, the cold boardrooms, the fake laughter at charity galas, the pressure of inheriting an empire too heavy for one man. And somehow, they met in the middle. Soon the valley began to talk. The other workers noticed how Sephew looked at her. Not like she was just a worker, but like she was everything he wasn't, and everything he wanted. Some warned her. He's using you. Rich men like that don't marry women with calloused hands. But Nia wasn't a fool. She'd seen men come and go. What made Sephew different was that he stayed. Not just for the work, but for the truth of it. Still she kept her guard up. One evening, as they sat watching the sun bleed into the horizon, Sephew turned to her and asked quietly, "If I wasn't rich, would you still talk to me?" She didn't look at him. "If you weren't kind, I wouldn't." He smiled. "But I'm both." Nia finally looked him in the eyes. And that's the dangerous part. But fate, as always, has a way of testing what seems too good. A sleek black SUV arrived in the valley one afternoon, kicking up dust. From it stepped two sharply dressed men. One was Ndlovu, Sephew's business partner. The other a lawyer. "Sir," Ndlovu said, clearly agitated. "You missed the meeting with the Nairobi board. You're running late on 2 projects in Lusaka. Investors are getting nervous. What are you doing in this dump?" Sephew stood, wiping cement from his hands. "I'm building." "This is madness," the lawyer snapped. "You're risking billions on a mud hut project. For what? Some woman." Nia heard every word. Her face went cold, her body stiff. Sephew turned to her, but she was already walking away. Rain had finally come to the valley. But it wasn't just the skies that broke. Something between them had cracked too. Nia didn't cry. She never did. But that night, as thunder rolled over the hills and rain washed away the day's dust, her hands trembled as she scrubbed cement off her arms. Not because of the storm outside, but the one inside her. Some woman. Those 2 words replayed like a curse in her ears. That's how Sephew's world saw her. A dirty construction worker. Passing fascination. Something to experience, not keep. So she did what she always did when life turned cruel, she got stronger. Sephew returned to the site the next morning. Nia wasn't there. He waited. Noon came. Then evening. Still no Nia. He found her 3 days later, working a shift on a neighboring construction site, hauling bricks with even more force than usual. Her eyes avoided his. "Nia," he said softly, "talk to me." "I don't have anything to say," she replied without pausing. "They didn't speak for me. But they spoke about me. And you stood there." I froze. "I didn't know." "That's the difference between us," she cut in, her voice sharp. "You have the luxury of freezing. You don't. I keep building even when everything breaks." He looked shattered. Not because she rejected him, but because he knew she was right. Still, he wouldn't give up. He returned to the city that night, to his empire, his boardrooms, his world of polished lies. But something had changed. Sephew couldn't walk into another meeting about marble finishes and glass towers without thinking about calloused hands and the strength behind them. He sat at his mahogany desk, staring out at the skyline, but all he saw was her. So he made a choice. A bold, reckless, completely irrational choice. He paused all 5 urban projects, diverted funds, and announced that the Macquarie Group would be launching its first affordable rural housing initiative, starting in Bear Valley. The board erupted in protest. "You're throwing money into mud. This isn't scalable. This isn't you, Sephew." But he smiled. "No, it's who I've become." Weeks passed. Construction in Bear multiplied. New workers arrived. Machinery rolled in. But not a single thing happened without consulting one person, Nia Dlamini. One morning, a crowd gathered near the edge of the site. Word spread that Sephew was back, but this time he wasn't alone. He stood on a makeshift stage. Next to him, a cloth-covered sign. He held a microphone. "Many of you know me as a businessman. But today I stand here as a student of this village, of your strength, and especially of one woman." He turned toward Nia in the crowd. "A woman who didn't just teach me how to build with bricks, but how to build honestly, with heart and humility." He pulled the cloth off the sign. Dlamini Vocational Center for Women in Construction. Built by Macquarie Group, inspired by Nia. The crowd gasped. Nia froze. Sephew spoke again. "This center will train and employ hundreds of women like Nia. Women who've been ignored, underestimated, but never broken. And this project is just the beginning." He stepped down and walked toward her slowly. She met his gaze. No words. Just that stare, sharp, guarded, unflinching. "Why?" she asked. "Because you saved me from a broken engine, but more than that. From a broken life. I want to build something with you, not just for you." She studied him. "You're still wearing expensive shoes," she said quietly. He looked down. "They're covered in mud now." Finally she smiled. The weeks turned to months. Together they built. Not just homes and centers, but a partnership. Nia oversaw construction. Sephew handled logistics and funding. And the village watched in awe as an empire began rising from the ground. Not of glass towers, but of hope. Rumors spread. Some said they were married in secret under a baobab tree. Others swore they saw Sephew carrying Nia's cement bucket with pride. No one knew what was true, except the fact that love had bloomed in the most unlikely soil. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't a fairy tale. But it was real. Years later, a child played with toy bricks under the shade of a newly built school. His mother, wearing a hard hat, shouted gently, "Use both hands, Jabari." His father, now bearded, muddy, and smiling like a man who finally belonged, added, "And remember, always build from the foundation up." And in the distance, beneath the same sky, dust and stars, stood a sign. "Welcome to Bear Valley, where real love builds everything."